Hi everyone, welcome to this video on the D7 visa, probably one of the most demanded visas and most popular visas when it comes to relocating to Portugal. So today we're going to give you a quick overview on different things like eligibility, process, and maybe also some common pitfalls. I'm not alone here. I brought an expert in the field. So I brought Scott with me, and maybe you just want to introduce yourself and also give a little overview on what we're going to talk about, where you're coming from, which area.
Yeah, thanks, Eva. I appreciate the invite. Well, I'm the owner and founder of Visas.pt, and we have a very large social media following on Facebook of about 2.2 million visitors per month. And a lot of people ask us about insurance, which is why we're talking to you. I really appreciate the opportunity to explain to everyone about what the requirements are and the benefits are of the D7 visa. So thanks for having me on.
Great. So we're going to start with the most basic question of them all. What is the D7 visa, and is it still relevant in 2026?
Sounds good. Well, the D7 visa is actually the most popular of what we call the lifestyle visas. And what we mean by that is not a working visa. So people don't come here to work, but they come here because they want a different lifestyle for themselves. They want a different life, a different pace of life, if you will. And it's called the passive income visa, and a lot of people really confuse it with the retirement visa. And don't get me wrong, a lot of people that are retired do come and do apply for the D7 visa, but it's not just for that. It's also for those people that may have some kind of savings or investments, and they want to be able to utilize those to be able to get the passive income visa to come to Portugal, because it is really a flexible visa. They can come here, become a resident, they can live here for as long as they want. So it really is a great pathway to Portugal, even in 2026.
So who's this visa then actually designed for? Is there like a main group that applies? You just said maybe not necessarily retirees, but also anybody else. So who can actually apply for this?
It's actually a really wide range of people. So for example, you can come here if you have like a rental unit and you get more than 920 euros a month. That's the magic number. If in 2026 you make more than 920 euros a month, which is the basic minimum wage salary in Portugal for everybody. If you make more than that, that makes you applicable for the D7 visa. Now, the only requirement of this is it does have to come from passive income, which means things like rental income, passive income, such as pensions, any kind of investments, et cetera, et cetera. So as long as you have that requirement, everything else is relatively easy to apply for. There is a few different interesting tricks that we can do. So for example, a lot of people come to us and say, can we just apply with just savings? And we say, of course you can, but we have to convert some of those savings into some kind of annuity or some kind of an investment that gets you the return of at least 920 euros a month moving forward. And as long as they do that, that makes them applicable for the D7, in which case we can certainly help them get to Portugal.
So it sounds like a visa that is really making coming to Europe and to Portugal quite accessible, right? So where are the main people coming from that apply from this visa? There are like certain countries that are really like applying to this often?
There is. In fact, it's right now, there's a lot of Americans coming. I call them Trump refugees, because sometimes people are just not happy what's going on over there, and no political bias on my part being Canadian. But I think that right now is really a point in time where people are looking for that second visa or second passport. If at the end of the visa process, everyone can apply for their citizenship here in Portugal. And there just seems to be a lot of people who are looking for a better quality of life. Now, the cost of living is so expensive in a lot of these countries that people come to Portugal because it's just better place when it comes to the budget. You know, property prices are a little bit lower. Budgeting for food and such is really cheap. You know, the lifestyle is just amazing. I mean, you get all the sunshine you want down in the Algarve, and the pace of life is just slower in general. So we can see a lot of people from, you know, the UK coming over here, Ireland, a lot of Canadians like myself, and certainly a lot of Americans. We get, you know, different people from South Africa coming, Australia, even the UAE. It's just they're coming from everywhere right now, and it's a little bit overwhelming for Portugal because of the fact that there is just a huge amount of people that have kind of discovered Portugal all of a sudden, and so they're coming over here, finding that they really enjoy it, telling all their friends about it, and so it's an exciting time to be here, and a lot more people are coming every day.
Yeah, well, I mean, I lived in Portugal for 2 years myself, so I can definitely relate to the the sunshine and the beautiful nature. And I think also the people in Portugal are super friendly, and still there is a growing international community, right? So people really also do make an effort to integrate themselves to become part of the culture there. And I think it's quite a nice mix also to see. How long does it actually allow you then to stay in the country? Like, what is the future outlook when I apply for this visa? Like, does it allow me to actually get the citizenship eventually? How does that work?
Sure. Well, I mean, that's a very good question because it's quite a nuanced answer I have to give. But essentially, when they first get their visa approved, what happens is they get a temporary visa for them to be able to come to Portugal and, find a home for themselves. And then they have to apply for residency. Now, residency is the next step, and it's really the same documents that they required for their visa appointment to get their residency appointment with the government organization here called AIMA. Now, AIMA takes a long time to get the appointment, so there's about, say, about a year for them to be able to come over here, find their place, and then apply for their residency. And then after that, once they get their residency approved, they have to apply for it 2 years later, and then every 3 years after that. And after 5 years, it allows them to apply for permanent residency, which gives them more rights in Portugal to stay here, and they can stay permanently. That's the name. And then after 10 years, which has just been changed from 5 to 10 years, now they can apply for citizenship here in Portugal as well. And once they get citizenship, of course, that means the whole European Union is open to them.
Yeah, I heard there were quite some changes, right? I think that's maybe for the listeners out there, quite one of the biggest changes we saw in 2026 when it comes to the D7 visa is this change in citizenship laws. I think there was a lot of mixed feelings about this, especially because, of course, it used to be 5 years. Do you think this is impacting also the amount of D7 applications that we're seeing at the moment?
It hasn't for us because a lot of times people don't really care so much about the citizenship. They care about coming over here and being able to live here permanently. And the permanent residency is still an option for everybody. And it's really no difference to the citizenship other than the fact that they can't bounce around to other different European Union countries. And a lot of people don't care about that simply because of the fact they come into Portugal to live in Portugal. And this gives them the same pathway to do so.
But that's such a great answer because, again, I think it gives you this reassurance also, even if the residency is a little bit further away than it used to be, you can still stay. It's still a great entryway to get here, to get settled. And I think it changed also a little bit in terms of like the popularity of different visas. I kind of want to later on go into some alternatives to D7 visa if that's not the right visa type for you necessarily. But maybe as a next kind of deep dive, I want to talk a little bit about, again, the eligibility and income requirements. So if someone was starting out today and they're like, okay, what is this checklist that I need to fulfill and check mark? Because there are different requirements. What is all the paperwork I would need to get done? And we'll get into the application process right on. But maybe let's start on who's really eligible. What's the checklist?
So, I mean, it's really anybody who has passive income is eligible for this visa. Like I said before, 920 euros is the magic number. And as long as you have that much coming in passive income, or you have savings that convert into passive income that gives you return of that much, you're eligible. It has to be consistent. It can't be, 1 month here and 2 months later you get another little bit and so on and so forth. It has to be consistent every single month. And we help our clients be able to set that up if they don't have it already in the form of pensions and rental income, etc. And then after that, it's really about, getting all the documents together. And there's some things that we help with, such as getting a NIF number. And that's really the first step for everybody. A NIF number is a tax ID, right? And what it does, it's just basically you use that number for everything that you do in Portugal. For example, you want to rent a place, you need a NIF number. You want to open a bank account, you need a NIF number, etc. So that's the first step. And our lawyers help them be able to get the NIF number remotely. They don't have to come here for any of these things. In fact, any of the application, our legal team helps them be able to apply remotely, which is really a benefit for a lot of these people. Because otherwise, for example, the NIF number, they can't get in person. They can't get unless they come in person. So, and that's a costly flight and accommodation and all that. Whereas we just charge 95 euros and, it's really easy to do, get it in a couple of days. So it saves a lot of hassle. And that's really the point of why we do this. We remove a lot of the pain points for them to be able to apply for their visa. So the next step after the NIF number would be the bank account. And the same thing, they can do it all remotely. They just have a conversation with our legal team and get things like proof of accommodation or proof of address back where they live now. So that could be in the form of a bank statement showing their address on it, or a utility bill showing their address. And what that does, it gives the bank, I guess, some reassurance that they live at this address and are able to open the bank account accordingly. And so
Is it a Portuguese bank account?
It is, exactly.
It is. Okay.
Yeah, it has to be, I guess, a bricks and mortar kind of bank account. It can't be like a Revolut or anything.
Okay, I was going to say not a neobank, like really proper established bank in Portugal.
It would have been much easier if it is. But so unfortunately, what we have to do here is have the lawyer would actually apply for the bank account on their behalf, because again, that's something they have to do in person most times. And in doing so, that lawyer will represent them at the bank, and we have very good connections with the banks and the bank managers that we work with who specialize in working with foreigners. So that allows us to be able to get them in touch with people that understand the needs of our clients, and it works really well. So after that, once they get the NIF number and bank account, they require things like proof of income. So they need to show that they have this passive income coming in. And that could be in the form of just different, agreements they have in place with the investment opportunities, their pensions or rental contracts, etc. And then they need to show, the money's actually going into their account. Now, one of the big things is they have to be able to put a big deposit into their Portuguese account to show the Portuguese government that they actually have enough money to survive when they get here. So it's not just about the passive income, it's about this deposit. And that's 11,060 euros they have to put into their account. And then once they have that money in the account, they can use it right away. They just have to be able to do a screenshot saying the money's there, but after that they can use it to pay their rent or to pay their bills. So it's not held there for any particular amount of time, but they do have to have that deposit in their account to show that they are self-sufficient. The government.
So does the amount that needs to be in the deposit and also the income requirement change if I'm bringing my family? Because we see a lot of people moving with their families to Portugal. Can I just bring them along on my D7?
Yeah, that's a great question. So of course they can, and they should definitely. That does change the income requirements for the monthly requirement and also the deposit they need to make. So if they're coming by themselves, like it says, 920 euros a month or 11,060 deposit. But if they want to bring their spouse, then they have to pay 50% more or have 50% more income monthly, and then any children or 30% more. That also, of course, is included in the deposit. So it'd be 11,060 plus 50% more for a wife and 30% more for each child on top of that. But a lot of people do that. It's usually not an issue.
Okay. And maybe also just to compare it to like the reunification visa that also exists, what is the main difference here? Do I put everyone in the same application, or is it better to do my application, for example, as D7 and my family on a different visa type?
Yeah, so it used to be that people could apply for the D7 and then come over to Portugal and then bring their family via family reunification. But now you have to wait several years in order to do that. So you have to become a resident. So first of all, you have to wait for your AIMA appointment, which takes about a year. Then you got to wait several years after that. So you're going to be without your family for a number of years, and nobody wants that. So it's best to bring them in. You're the main applicant, and you bring your family under as a dependents at the same time of application.
So the best way to bring your family over is everybody in the same application, all put their documents in together, and then we're collecting all of these different things that are needed for our first appointment, right? That's like the visa appointment in your home country. What else on the list? I think it was also like criminal record or something like this. What else
criminal record, exactly right. Yep, you have to get the criminal record, and it's different, of course, if you're in the UK or Canada or the US. But the one thing that remains similar throughout all the countries is it needs to be apostilled. So you have to get it certified by the government that it's an actual legitimate document. And the thing is that criminal record check is really important, that it doesn't go past the 3-month time frame. So it has 3 months of validity period before the Portuguese government doesn't accept it anymore. And that's really an important point, because to get the appointments with VFS or sometimes the consulate, which is where they apply for the visa application, that sometimes takes a long time. In certain areas, it takes longer than others. So for example, in Washington, DC or Miami or Houston, it can sometimes take 3 to 6 months, if not longer, to get the appointment itself. And so of course, if they jump in with 2 feet and get their criminal record check right away, then they're going to have to redo it later on because the time frame is expired. So what we do is we recommend to our clients that they wait until they get the appointment first, and then after that they go for the criminal record check or any kind of time sensitive documents like that, because otherwise they're going to be ended up paying a second time unnecessarily.
So just taking or zooming a little bit out, if I want to get my D7 visa, I would have like a phase where I'm prepping all the documents and gathering the things like the income requirements, setting up everything in Portugal, maybe with your help, getting my bank account. And then when I have all this paperwork, which sounds super like bureaucratic still, I'm going to have to kind of get this appointment, correct?
That's right. In fact, there's one other thing I'd like to talk about first, which is proof of accommodation in Portugal. And the reason I want to talk about this is because it's probably the biggest pain point that all of our clients experience when coming here. Because as part of the VFS application or the visa process, they need to show that they have a place to stay when they're here. Now, of course, that's problematic because they don't have the visa to come to Portugal, but they need to show that they have a place to stay. Right now, this is could get potentially expensive because rents here in Portugal have been rising steadily over the years, and now it's not cheap. So what we have to do is we have to find them a place over here. We help them through the process of finding a place that's suitable in their price range, in the area that they want. Maybe they have pets that they need to consider, and then we try to like make it so that the rental doesn't start until after their visa is approved. And that's not always easy because there's a big demand in Portugal for rental properties. And, landlords don't necessarily want to wait 3-4 months for their rent to start coming in when there's so many other applicants that are wanting to get started on it right now. There's no incentive for them to wait for you when there's 10 other people waiting for the same place right now. But we still try to, figure out how we can understand when they want to come over here and then be able to find a place suitable for them at that point in time. And there's a few tricks of the trade that we know to be able to do that. For example, we can rent rooms in parts of Portugal that keeps the cost down for the time frame so they can use for their application. But, when they actually come over here, they find their real place, or we can help them find a place that they want to stay in, for their permanent home after the fact as well. So it's one of those things where it's really costly because say for example, there's a 2,000 a month rent and they have to get it before the VFS appointment. So they get it and maybe a month before, and then it takes about 2 or 3 months if they're lucky to get approved for the visa. So that's 2, 3, maybe 4 months worth of rent that they're paying on a place that they're not even going to use. So it's not ideal, and I think it's a little bit nonsensical if you ask me. Personally, I think they should require the accommodation for residency approval, not for the visa application. But of course, I don't make the rules, so not really up to me. So we did the best we can to help them and help them understand what the requirement is, what is suitable, because a lot of times people come to us and say things like, well, we have friends over there, and they say we can stay with them. And it's just not suitable. It used to be applicable where they could sign a thing called a term of responsibility, where they take full responsibility for these people, but it's no longer possible. A lot of times they get rejected for this. So then we have to set up different kind of rental agreements with these friends, and it just gets a little bit trickier. If you have family members here, then they can do that. So for example, if their parents are here and they want to stay with their parents or relatives of any kind, like cousins, that's suitable. But when it comes to friends staying with friends, it's just not seen as very, suitable for your stay here. You can stay with them for a few weeks, but they're friends, not family. So they don't think you're going to stay here permanently at their house. So there's different things when it comes to that we help them find the place they need. And it's very important that they follow and adhere to those rules. Otherwise, they will get rejected.
So in 2026, then for expats, is it more rent or buy for the residency permit and visa application?
Yeah, it really depends. And that's another great question because what a lot of people do is they say, I want to come over to Portugal and rent for a year just to see the different areas. They've never been here before, or they've been here for a week or two on holidays. They don't really know the areas very well. And so they want to come over here and check out the different areas before they buy. Other times people just want to jump in with both feet. Maybe they know Portugal really well, and they've come over here on holidays every year. And since they're kids, a lot of people from England come over here all the time and have been coming here for 20, 30 years, and they know exactly where they want to be, in which case they certainly should put in an offer in a place. Now, just to make it very clear, though, if there is an offer on a property, that would get rejected as proof of accommodation because they don't have the residence permit. They don't have that property yet. An offer isn't enough. They need to complete on that property before they move forward. But again, there's different alternatives that they can use in the meantime. But hotels and hostels and things like that don't work, at least not on the D7.
Okay, well, that's great to know. I think there's a lot of people out there who are asking themselves about the commitment. So I would imagine you also advise on these kind of bigger decisions, right?
Absolutely. That's exactly what we do, and that's why we're in business. We have a whole legal team in place to be able to understand what the law is, what the requirements are, and we do our best to educate our clients about these requirements.
That's great to hear. I mean, now we covered the bucket of housing and we're still in the application phase. So maybe another important topic that comes up a lot is healthcare and health insurance. So what are the requirements that you see at the visa stage and maybe beyond?
I wish this was a simple answer. It's just not. And it's, again, one of those things that are beyond my control, because different consulates are seeming to have different requirements when it comes to healthcare. Now, for example, their own documentation says that at the visa application process, it needs to be 4 months of travel insurance in order to apply for your visa application. And then once you get residency, you need 1 year of health insurance. Now, again, it's just really unfortunate because different consulates, particularly in this case, the San Francisco one, is requiring to have 12 months of insurance for the visa application. Now, this is something that, again, goes against their own regulations. But when people are actually sitting there in front of the agent who's going to be, putting their application forward, and the agent saying, no, you require a year's worth of insurance, it really is hard for you to be able to say no to them, saying, if you sign here for quite a bit of money, you're able to get our health insurance and it won't be a problem. So I think it's actually kind of some kind of a ploy to get people to sign up for health insurance and then be able to make a little bit extra money, which is, just terrible in my opinion, to see someone, you're in a situation of power, utilizing that power to extract money from these good intentioned clients that already have suitable insurance for that level. So a lot of these people end up going down that path anyways. I understand with Feather, for example, you guys have a long-term insurance option, which is suitable for this, which is great. A lot of people who don't go down the path with you end up being disappointed afterwards if they just go for the 4-month insurance package. Maybe you can tell us a little bit more about how it's suitable.
Yeah, no, I'd be happy to. I mean, again, I think the health insurance journey, as you said, can be quite complex based on different requirements. And we want to make sure that that's not the reasons why the visa gets rejected. We saw some rejection cases of like simple travel insurance that was only 4 months long. So what we built with Feather was actually trying to create a policy that's specific for example, D7 visas in Portugal. It's a policy that you can take, for example, for 12 months. So if you have a really strict consulate, you could show them you have proof of insurance. But it's not just a travel insurance. It actually also gives you coverage as a private insurance in Portugal. So you don't need to buy a second insurance policy when you have your residency appointment. Because again, we're looking at this visa stage and this residency stage when you're in the country. And again, we're still in our application journey, but just foreshadowing a little bit, the insurance requirements do change. So at the visa stage, you need like a certain amount of coverage. You need repatriation to your own country, around 30,000 euros in terms of like the reimbursement amounts, in and outpatient care, all of these kind of things. But then later on in the residency, they ask for way more comprehensive coverage. So they demand a full private medical insurance in Portugal, and your travel insurance won't be valid then at this point. So again, our policy works for both use cases. So you don't have to deal with two insurances. It comes completely in English and it's designed for people applying for the visa and residency. So if you want to take a look, we have some videos on it below as well, or you can reach out to Scott or me. But yeah, so just watch out. There's quite some insurance scams out there as well. I think a lot of expats are struggling with this, and it's really shocking to hear for us, of course, that some authorities are even upselling some stuff that you might not need. So just be aware that you get the right thing that works best for you. Yeah, luckily we don't see this everywhere, but every now and then, of course, there's like cases where we want to warn expats about.
Yeah, and there are some shady insurance providers out there. I've seen some of the ratings on some of these people and the horror stories of other people leaving reviews for them, and it's just tragic. It's definitely a big reason for potentially people to get declined. So it's an important thing to consider. Now, just to be clear, one of the main requirements of health insurance and travel insurance in Portugal is that it covers the entire Schengen area. I'm assuming Feather does as well. Is that right?
Yes, of course. And you get the documents you need for your application right after sign up. So both for the visa stage and the residency stage, it's quite a comprehensive cover, and you can cover all of your dependents as well if you're for example, applying for a family on the D7, it's probably one of your best options out there to get started and to just not think about insurance for an entire year. So you have that little box checked and you can take care of like all the other boxes we have, because there seems to be quite a lot to check and to bring also, because I believe that you need to bring everything in paper form to your appointment, right? So Scott, tell me, do we have everything that we need to go to our VFS appointments yet, or is something missing here?
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much everything. There is the bigger problem with the VFS appointment itself and then getting approved and everything. The nice thing about VFS, and this is something that has saved a few clients, is they have forgotten a few documents from time to time, and then VFS actually writes afterwards and says things like, we don't think this rental agreement is suitable. For example, in the case where they're trying to use their friends to stay, and they give them 2 weeks to be able to rectify that. Now again, that's 2 weeks to find a rental property in Portugal for a year, and to get it signed while you're not in Portugal is not an easy task. But we are able to usually get that for our clients and sort them out so they find suitable accommodation for that. But it is something that they do offer. Either they're sitting in front of you and say, you need this document or that document, and they give you time to rectify that, or they write you afterwards, and so that's great. The time frame is really important one though, because sometimes it takes 2 to 3 months to get approved, and in some cases even longer, but typically it's 2 to 3 months. And once they get that, then they have 4 months afterwards to be able to relocate to Portugal and stay in their accommodation. And then after that, they hopefully get an appointment with AIMA to apply for residency. Now that again is something where it's much better now than it was before, because before they were able to get their visa approved and they didn't get an appointment for residency automatically, in which case they had to call AIMA and write them, and they never answered. So it literally took years for people to be able to get their residency appointment, which left them in a really unstable position, because they only have 4 months to stay in Portugal before they apply for residency, yet they don't have an appointment and they can't get an appointment for residency. So we actually used to file a lot of lawsuits against AIMA, and won every time, because they recognized the problem, and that was the only way to really get appointments for our clients. Thankfully, they've gotten a lot better as of late. And now they usually give appointments for the clients, not always, but most of the times. For example, we had a client from Australia and they didn't get an appointment right away. So we had to get them, one for themselves. But typically that's not the case. And in, Canada, UK, USA, etc., they usually come with it. But the problem after that arises where they have their visa approved and now they're going to apply for residency, but the residency appointment isn't for like a year, maybe a year and a half. And even still, say there's 4 different family members. Sometimes I've seen it where every family member has an appointment at the same time in a different part of Portugal. So of course the kids aren't able to drive themselves to Braga while the parents are in Lisbon at the same time, and so it becomes problematic. And we sort of sort all that out for the clients as well. So it's not, how can I say, a streamlined process yet. It's gotten a lot better, but it's still a process. And again, they only have 4 months to be able to come to or to stay in Portugal and get the residency, but the appointment is a year away. So the common question is, what do I remain legal? And they definitely do. They do remain legal. The only complication comes in is if they plan to, go to like Spain or France or Germany for the weekend, and they're going to ask, where are you resident? And they're going to say, Portugal, show me residence card. I don't have one yet. And then they look at the Schengen days and all that, and it gets kind of complicated. So in those situations, we provide a letter, a legal document that says these people are allowed to be here. Here's the AIMA appointments. Here's the laws that say they're allowed to be here. And that usually works. But it is a complicated time frame for the people, and they're only allowed to have 2 entries. And a lot of times they have family members they need to get to, weddings or sickness in the family, so they have to kind of go back and forth, and it just gets complicated for them. So our legal team helps them facilitate that process as well.
And I think, again, also something worth noticing is in terms of health insurance, our policy, for example, works on a monthly basis. So even if you don't really know how long you're going to stay on, it's good to have something, or like generally like your setup in the country, that gives you a lot of flexibility so you can adapt it. Because if you have a certain amount of time that you already prepaid, pre-booked, if something happens, you want to have that extra flexibility. I think just navigating back and forth and having an insurance that works then for the entire Schengen area, so that you can also in fact travel or leave if you need to. In terms of the appointment, because, sorry, go ahead.
So I was just going to say that's a very important point, because what happens a lot of times when people go to AIMA, they have a 1 year insurance plan, but it was like from a month ago, and then I'm just going to look at that and go, well, it's only 11 months left, but you require a year. Sometimes they're sticklers for details that way. So if they have a rolling insurance plan, it works really well because they can't say anything about that.
No, it's true. And I think also one interesting thing is about the AIMA, of course, everybody, they're all humans, right? At the end of the day. So everybody reads the requirements a little bit differently. So you want to make sure that you're extra safe. So that's not the reason why you get rejected. Like, again, I see so many people that come to us even at the AIMA stage and are like, oh my God, I had a travel insurance. I didn't know. Can I still get on your insurance plan? You can, because again, it's monthly payments. You can just be quite flexible. But there are a lot of people that actually get rejected because of insurance, which is surprising, but we still see it quite a lot. And yeah, I mean, I'm really curious though about your experience with the appointments themselves, because I think we have a lot of people that ask us, they feel like it's almost like a job interview, right? Like you have all your documents and you feel like you're prepared to give the speech why you want to move to Portugal. How does that usually look like at the VFS stage, but also at the AIMA appointment? Is it this big scary appointment people should be scared of, or how does it usually look like?
I mean, there's a lot to consider and a lot of documents, a lot of things that could go wrong, right? And a lot of things do go wrong for people. I don't want to pretend like it's just you walk in there, stroll in there, and 5 minutes later you get your visa. It's all good, because it can be complicated and stressful. I get it, because sometimes people have to travel to a new location, where the VFS is, spend a night in a hotel. It's a big deal, and. So what we do is we, of course, have a system in place that where our clients, it tells them what documents they need. It allows our lawyers to look over it and kind of guide them through the whole process. And then afterwards, when it gets to the point where they have their VFS appointment, they then do a document review with the legal team, and the legal team goes through and they make sure that they have all the documents. It's all apostilled. It's all, the term is right for the criminal record checks. They have their personal statements in line and everything. So they almost feel like they have the assurance and the law on their side, because the legal team has assured them that this is correct now, and like I said before, every VFS global place is just has slightly different requirements, and we've gone through this with our clients so many times that we understand the different idiosyncrasies between the different VFS locations, and we can help guide them through that. This is what you're going to expect. This is what's going to happen. This is what you say. This is the documents that you show, and if you follow along the pathways, it takes away a lot of the stress, because you know that you're fully prepared before you walk in that door.
Yeah, and the same for the AIMA as well.
Yeah, thank you for asking. I was going to get to that. With AIMA, it's a little bit similar in the fact that the documents are all the same, but then you're applying for residency. And for these cases, a lot of times people request one of our legal team to join them on this for this. So one of our lawyers goes to the AIMA location with you, sits beside you with all the documents, and you kind of have the little bit more of a confidence in what's going on when you have a lawyer beside you saying, this is the way it is, this is the documents they have, these are all legal, here's the laws that show that this is legal. And it gives them a little bit more ability to sleep the night before, knowing that they have someone beside them that does this all the time.
No, I can imagine. Also, of course, it's potentially someone that can translate if there's any language barrier. However, I have seen people in Portugal speaking impeccable, great English. So I don't think there's...
It's true. It's true in the bigger cities. But like I said, there's no actual way of determining where your AIMA appointment is. Sometimes they get placed in the far north or in the interior, and they don't speak English. And so to have the lawyer beside you who is bilingual, who is Portuguese, and represents you, is a very good point. It does help with that as well.
So do you have to have all of your documents in Portuguese?
As in the visa application, you don't. When it comes to the residency appointment at AIMA, you have to get more documents in Portuguese, but not all. The lawyers will help you to understand which ones need to be translated, which ones don't. But for example, school records for your kids definitely need to be, and there's certain other ones that are requirements that they can help you define which ones need to be translated, which ones don't, which ones need to be apostilled, which ones don't. It's all part of the process. Okay,
great. So then, just in a nutshell, after I arrived in Portugal, so I ideally had my AIMA appointment within the 120 days. I already got that at the VFS stage. I went there with a lawyer. I got everything through. And then what happens? So I get a stamp in my passport, and then I just come back 2 years later after my residence permit runs out? Or how does the trajectory go?
Yeah, so initially it's you get your visa approved, you come to Portugal, you wait until you get your AIMA appointment for residency. At that point in time, when you get the appointment, it takes a little bit of time to get, but when you get approved, you're approved for initially 2 years, and then after that you get approved for 3 years and 3 years and 3 years and so on your temporary visa. After 5 years, it allows you to apply for your permanent residency here, and that then is renewed less frequently. So essentially, it's 2 years and 3 years, 3 years, 3 years, all the way along. You can continue as being a temporary resident if you want for as long as you want. But when you get to the point where you want to apply for residency, then you need to pass the language test. You need to get up what's called an A2 Portuguese language test, and there's different ways of accomplishing that. But part of the reason that we exist, and one of the benefits that we like to offer our clients, is we believe in immigration and integration. And that's where we are different than everybody else. And the fact that we don't just drop them when they get to their visa approved or their residency. We want to support them through their journey. And one of the things we've done is created a language tool that gets them up to that A2 level. And
Lovely.
it's really an amazing tool that was created by a Cambridge educated Portuguese language tutor. And we worked with her to be able to create this language environment that allows people to learn Portuguese from Portugal, because a lot of these language tools are teaching Brazilian Portuguese to come here. And I love Brazilian Portuguese as well. I came from there first. But it is different. It's significantly different, especially with the accents and different words that people use. And I hate for people to be able to go through years of training before they get to Portugal and realize they learned Brazilian Portuguese rather than European Portuguese. So we, include that in our packages for people to be able to proceed with. They still have to do a language test at the end of it, but there's certain ways that they can actually do language courses without actually getting to the point where they have to do the test. And we usually instruct our clients to go that path. But all of this is to lead up to the point where they can apply for permanent residency, and then they have a lot more rights here in Portugal. But they can continue on being a temporary resident if they wish.
Okay, well, I mean, that sounds quite straightforward.
Mm-hmm.
So in terms of the whole journey, maybe what are the most common mistakes you see over and over again that expats make that are kind of avoidable as well?
I mean, the biggest one is accommodation. When they're saying they want to stay with their friends, I got a friend, I'll just stay with them. It's not good enough. And then, as we talked about before with the insurance, a lot of people think that the travel insurance is good all the way through, and it's just not, sadly. One of the biggest ones is the apostilled. And a lot of people think that getting a criminal record check and then getting apostilled is really where all you need to do, but they don't understand that there's a time frame. It starts ticking as soon as they get the criminal record check. It's only valid for a very short period of time, and I see that all the time, sadly. If anyone listening to this gets anything from it, wait to get the criminal record check until much later down the path, because everyone just rushes down and gets that right away because they're so excited about coming to Portugal, and then they get bitten down the way, recognizing that it's no longer valid and have to pay all the money, because it's not cheap to get the criminal record check and then get it apostilled afterwards. It's quite a bit of money and time and effort. So it's things like that. I also think when it comes to rentals, a lot of people think that they can get a hotel, or an Airbnb, and it has to be a 1-year lease. And this is something that we didn't mention before, and it's worth mentioning that when they get a 1-year lease for a place, the landlord has to submit that document to finances. They have to register it with the government, and if it's not registered, it'll get rejected for sure. And the downside is the landlords don't always want to register it, because that means they have to pay taxes and all their money, et cetera, et cetera. So they kind of push back. In our legal team, we have a property finder service that makes sure that it's registered in the correct way to make it suitable for the visa application and for the resident application later on. So it's different things like that are kind of pitfalls. They have to make sure that the rental application is not only valid for 12 months, but also it's valid. It has certain criteria in there that makes it so that it's suitable. For example, it has to be rolling agreement. Like, for example, if it's only a 1-year lease, but you've already been living there for 4 months, they may not accept it, and unless it's automatically renewable. So our legal team goes through every single contract to make sure it has all the different points in place to make sure that they understand that these are the requirements for the residency appointment and for the visa application, and this agreement is now suitable. So there's lots of different things, but that's kind of why we exist. We walk people through these different things to make sure that they understand all their obligations and the requirements. So when they go into these appointments, they feel confident.
I was going to say, it sounds like it's such a big journey, right? A lot of bureaucracy, a lot of things to understand, to keep in mind. So, when would you say it's worth seeing a professional service like you guys? Do people still do this alone? Like, it sounds really advisable to actually have the support of a lawyer, etc. So, what's your take on this?
I mean, people can do it themselves, and a lot of people do. I think it comes down to how much do you value your time, and how much do you trust the wisdom of the crowds. Because our groups, for example, we have this massive social media following, and they help each other. It's really useful, but a lot of times they give information that's not always accurate, and it's up to you to keep up with all that's going on about every single point. Do your own research, maybe use ChatGPT, etc., to help out. But sometimes these tools hallucinate. Sometimes the wisdom of the crowds gives wrong information, and then by the time you get to the visa application, you get rejected based on something silly that you didn't understand. So I think it all comes down to time. If you have the time and the patience to be able to study all this, and you're confident in your own abilities to do the research, that you can move forward with the application on your own. There's certain things that you can't do by yourself. So for example, getting a NIF number, like I said, the first step, unless you're in Portugal, you can't get the NIF number without assistance from an organization like ours. And same thing with bank accounts. A lot of the banks don't allow you to be able to apply from afar. And so you have to either come here to open the bank account, or get a lawyer, like one on our team, to be able to assist you with that process. Other things maybe you can do yourself. You can obviously find insurance on your own. So what we do is we offer the complete visa packages, which we consider like a white glove experience, so people can trust that the lawyers are going to walk you through every step, make sure there's no mistakes about anything. Or we offer a do-it-yourself package where people can kind of pick and choose what they want to do. Like, say, for example, they want our help with the NIF number, and then maybe they want our help finding a place to live, whether the contract's all suitable, etc. They can choose the different options of what they want, and if they choose all the options, it's going to cost a lot more than if they choose the packages, because we offer significant discounts for that. But it's something that they can do, and it's really up to the individual themselves.
Mm-hmm. Sounds great. So that kind of brings me to the conclusion. So if I'm someone watching this, I'm like, oh my God, I really want to move to Portugal. Sounds great. What is something they can do, or like a single action they can take this week to get started?
So yeah, it's something. The very first step for everybody is to get the NIF number. I think that's really an important one, because it's really the first step that they can do. It's something that they can do from afar, and it's really just taking that first permanent step. And there's no requirements for the NIF number. You don't get taxed or anything like that afterwards. There's no obligations. It's just something that this is my first step. This is me making the first intention to move to Portugal. And I think it's really valuable for people to be able to do that. But then it is also, of course, they want to figure out where they want to live. Portugal is such a big area, and it's really wonderful in the fact that every different area has a different kind of lifestyle. Like down here in the Algarve, where I am, it's very sunny, lots of golf courses, lots of beaches, but it's kind of boring during the winter. There's not a lot to do. Whereas Lisbon may be more exciting, or Cascais, where there's more restaurants, more people, and more excitement. And then, of course, in Porto is more, just culture in a lot of ways, and more authentic Portugal, I would say. So it really depends on what people want. And, one of the things we do is we offer a free consultation with people, and where one of our team talks to people and finds out, first of all, is the D7 right for you, or maybe other visas may be more suitable. And then we find out a little bit more about who they are, and understand why they're moving to Portugal. We can recommend places for them to check out. We can recommend which visas they're right for them. And then we can answer any questions they have along the way. So I'd probably say start there, and then talk to us first, talk to one of the team, find out what find out if you can even move to Portugal under the D7 visa, if your requirements are suitable. Then after that, we can help with the steps along the way to get you here.
That's great. So where can people best reach out and find you? On your website or on Facebook? What's the best way to reach you?
I mean, they can go on Facebook, and the groups are moving to Portugal and living in Portugal. They can find those pretty easily. But going to Visas.pt is probably the best. They can go there and click on book a consultation, and it's free, just to get some information about, ourselves, and also if they're, the D7 applicable is right for them. So yeah, it's one of those things where they can reach out any way they want. There's a phone number at the top of the website. They can call us, they can WhatsApp us, anything.
Great.
Whatever's convenient for them.
That sounds lovely. So wrapping up, the D7 is kind of like still in 2026, a really great way of moving to Portugal. It's for broad kind of variety of people, not just retirees. It comes with a lot of bureaucratic tasks and admin behind it, but it sounds like it's still a valid and worth it option to relocate permanently and become a long-term resident and really get settled in Portugal. Few hurdles on the way: housing, healthcare is one of them. So talking to the right experts, I think, is a great way of getting in touch, either with Scott or with me, and if it comes to insurance. So yeah, if you have any other questions, feel free to drop them in the comments. We're always happy to reply to those. And yeah, see you soon in Portugal, and I would say, right?
Exactly. Thanks, Eva. I appreciate your time.
Great. Thank you so much, Scott.